Greetings of the season to you. Welcome along to the latest edition of our weekend preview. I'm Jack Ogalbe, joined by Bobbie Jackson. We're going to have a look at our three biggest games of the weekend as we see it. Of course, football doesn't stop in the Premier League over the festivities, and there's plenty of exciting action to come. The first game we're going to have a look at is Newcastle against Everton. Newcastle 5-2 to win at home. Everton 11-10, the draw 12-5. Newcastle actually unbeaten at home since losing to Arsenal back in August. And a decent run of form. They were outclassed by Manchester United on Boxing Day, but they're usually pretty good at St James's. Everton beginning a new chapter, Bobby Hartley, beating Burnley 1-0 in Carlo Ancelotti's first game in charge. And it's an interesting one to call this.
It is. I would go towards Everton with this one, though. Having watched them on Boxing Day, they played some great football under Ancelotti. They dominated possession. He changed the formation, played with three centre-backs, wing-backs in Sidibe and Lucas Digne. They had a lot of attacking intent with those wing-backs getting forward into high areas. Sidibe, for me, had his best game as an Everton player. And they really should have beaten Burnley a lot more comfortably than 1-0 suggested in the end. You look at Newcastle, and I just question how much depth they've got in that squad, and that's when you look at this festive period and think, are they going to be able to rotate enough? Are those players going to be fresh enough after what was a testing game at Manchester United? They were worked hard in that one, ultimately losing quite heavily in the end. So I would be going towards Everton. I can see them now getting on a good run of form. Duncan Ferguson sort of sparked it, didn't he? They're now 4 games unbeaten, 3 under Ferguson, 1 under Ancelotti, and I think we're going to start seeing them now edge up the table and looking to get into that top half, maybe even chance still to get into a top 6. We've still got a half a season to go, lots of football to be played, but it's games like this now that Everton need to start winning.
Yeah, you never can quite predict how fixtures are going to turn out at this stage of the season. You mentioned Newcastle's depth there. The next game we're going to have a look at is West Ham against Leicester. Leicester are the 5-6 favourites heading into this one. West Ham 3-1. And the draw 29-10. But Leicester are having questions about the quality of the squad. Obviously, they've got a good 1-11, then maybe 12, 13 and 14. But they're struggling at the moment. They lost 4-0 to Liverpool last time out. That's 1 point from the last 9 available. They head to the Hammers, who lost 2-1 to Crystal Palace on Boxing Day and haven't won at home since September. And I have to say, this is anyone's, this one.
Yeah, I think Brendan Rodgers' argument for transfers in January has been strengthened by this run they've actually been on, because they were performing fantastically well. Up there, they were being mentioned as potential candidates to challenge Liverpool. I think the loss on Boxing Day has probably ruled that out now. So it's 3 games without a win for Leicester, and you look at that from a Rodgers point of view, and he's say, you know what, I need more depth. I need 1 or 2 more reinforcements to come in here just to boost us, to make sure we can get that top 4, which would be a great achievement anyway for Leicester. I think it was ambitious to suggest that they were in a title race. I look at West Ham, and they've spent so much money over the last few years. Pellegrini's under a great amount of pressure at the moment, isn't he, in the dugout? A loss against Leicester might not well be the end for him, but it's going to add further fuel to the fire and boost those claims that he needs to be moved on. I would go towards Leicester, I think. I think there's going to be real fire in their bellies. After what has been a tough run against some of the bigger sides in the league, they'll feel like now is their time to bounce back and get that momentum building once again. West Ham coming into this, as you say, off the back of that loss to Crystal Palace, despite taking the lead, they then went on to lose, didn't they? And you question the character when that's the case.
Yeah, well, the word is Manuel Pellegrini's got 2 games to save his job. We've heard that a few times this season about the Chilean. Maybe his luck's starting to run out. Finally, we're going to have a look at Burnley's match against Manchester United. Burnley 10-3 to win. United, the 4-5 favourites to draw 11-4. Man, you were brilliant on Boxing Day, I thought, beating Newcastle 4-1. Burnley were poor, as you mentioned, against Everton. But this is the kind of fixture I always think that can throw something up a bit different at this stage of the season, especially as Manchester United lost 2-0 at Watford last Sunday.
Yeah, you never quite know what you're going to get from the Red Devils at the moment, do you? They seem to put in a great performance, then they back it up with something quite terrible. And we know Burnley are always a tough side. As I said yesterday, they were dominated by Everton. But Burnley show spirit, they fight, they make you work hard to get victories. They weren't on their game, but they still had a good shape. And that's what they'll do against United. If they do go down, it's likely to be 1-0. They'll make sure that United have been in a match. It won't be like the procession that we saw at Old Trafford against Newcastle. So I do expect Burnley to make this one difficult, and I might lean towards a double chance in this one if you're not brave enough to go for the Burnley win. I think Fixtures piling up again. We've seen an injury for Scott McTominay for Manchester United. He's been key in midfield. Whether Paul Pogba is going to come in and start, and you question whether he's ready for that at the moment. He's not started a game for a long, long time now. He came off the bench, didn't he, against Newcastle and up against the Burnley side, who are going to get stuck in and really ask questions of him. Does he want it? There's questions about him going in January. He might be thinking ahead to moving elsewhere rather than getting stuck in at Turf Moor.
Yeah, all questions to be answered on Saturday. That's all we've got time for on this latest edition of the Weekend Preview. Thank you from myself, Jack and Bobbie. Remember to tell us what you think across all our social media platforms, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube.